Hello, and welcome to Here's the Thing with Robbie and Jose, where we explore relationships through a male and female perspective. With me, as always, is the lovely Robbie.
Hello, Jose.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm
It's good
good.
to see you.
It's good to see you too.
We're doing something a little bit different today. This is going to be our first time taking a listener suggestion for our topic today. And today's topic is going to be attraction. What you attracted to?
A cheeseburger right now. I'm a little hungry, but aside from that, yeah.
You and I have talked about attraction many times, basically like from prehistoric times, like what makes us attracted to someone. And we've had some very interesting conversations.
What you can have two people and you can ask them both if they think somebody's attractive, and you'll get two different
It's
answers.
so weird.
Yeah. I mean,
so weird.
I will say this, right? And I know this one's, you've done a lot of research on this one. We'll get to it, but I know that conventional beauty is supposed to be like symmetry, right? So when somebody says that's like supermodels, for instance, right? They have the symmetry to them, and that's what makes them more attractive because they try to put science around it, but I don't know how far they get.
Is it the supermodel? I thought that was more based on your height and your weight. I didn't know that had anything to do.
Supermodels have it's very hard to be a supermodel, but
No, I'm saying I
but you
don't
also
know
have to
if
be
they-
attractive too. Yeah, it has to do with like how attractive I guess you are to the masses. I suppose I know we're talking, but if you wanted to, again, what appeals to the masses in general would be symmetry.
Yeah,
of some
it's
sort.
interesting. Some people, it's the exact opposite of that. They don't like someone in the room. You don't like facial features to be like perfectly straight or like whatever.
Yeah.
Like you like uniqueness.
I've heard like I can't remember the terminology, something like ugly cute or something, or cute ugly or something like that. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, so somebody that's not
They're so ugly,
conventionally-
they're cute?
No. They're not. I think the expression comes from they're not conventionally what you would consider a
Okay.
good-looking guy.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So do you have an example of let's say a celebrity, a good looking guy celebrity, or he's so ugly, he's cute?
No. Again, it has nothing to do with it. It's not that they're ugly. It's that they're just not conventionally good looking.
Okay. Do you have an example of somebody?
Let's just say it's somebody that other people wouldn't find or typically is not conventionally good looking, and but they're still attractive nonetheless. That's
But
what it
and there's
boils
no
down.
way that's wrong either. We're saying that like you can be attracted to whatever you're attracted to. There may be prehistoric reasons why you're attracted to a certain thing. Like one thing they talk about a lot is how men are attracted to women with wider hips, right? Because it's showing like a kind of like a fertility kind of thing, right?
Right, yeah.
Like wherever that's obviously just embedded in us,
I guess the same reason why women like tall men.
Yeah. They gotta hunt, and I don't know.
There's no use for it now. Just FYI,
Yeah.
there's no legitimate reason to want
Everybody
a
can go through the
6 foot-
drive-through.
Well, I'm just saying, like you can get a step ladder if you need to reach something. You know what I mean? But yeah, that people have preferences for sure.
Yeah. There's a few different types of attraction. There's actually 6 that are listed here that I kind of wanted to talk about. The first one is physical. This is the desire to touch or to be touched by that person. But what I thought was interesting with this is it's not always sexual. And I was trying to think of a kind of a physical attraction to something, and something that came to my mind was babies. How we all are like, when you see babies, there's something in us. They're so cute, and you just, not like it's like I said, non-sexual at all, but it's like you want to touch that baby. You want to pinch his cheeks. You want to give it little kisses, like there's something in us that's like really attracted to that.
I'm sure it's primal, but I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you.
Or baby animals.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
Somebody did describe it once, but I can't remember the reference. But there is science around it.
Yeah.
Why we're again why we find babies cute.
Yeah.
I can't remember. They did describe it, but I can't remember exactly what it is. But it's a very primal thing that we have.
Is it just because it's something that's just so much smaller than us that we feel we need to protect it almost?
That part I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. But I know that, you could be in most cases, right, in general, you can be the biggest, burliest dude and, you put a baby in front of them and they just, you know what I mean? It'll break them down, Not for everybody. Some guys really try to stay away from babies, but other times, like, you just can't get angry. You see a baby and it's hard to get mad.
But yeah, that's the only one that I could come to mind. Like I said, and it can be sexual, obviously. That's in its own category, but it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's a sexual attraction.
Right.
Another one is emotional. And this is based on personality and inner characteristics. So I was thinking about like friendships. You're emotionally connected to this person, and it could not be physical at all. Maybe you don't find them attractive, and there's nothing like that. You're just friends, but you're really attracted to the
I
what?
get it, Robbie. I get it. It's your way of saying I'm not that handsome. I get it. Yes. Okay. Got it. Their personality, air quotes. Go ahead.
That's terrible.
They have a
No.
great personality. Yes. I've known a bunch of people that love their personality, but just not physically attracted. Yes. That's
But
great. Yeah.
they said that,
Have a
like,
beautiful soul.
such a nice person. No, but like, I don't think that you can make a relationship work long term also if you don't have this emotional part. If you're just physically attracted to them sexually and there's nothing else, you guys don't share any connection whatsoever, unless it's transactional and that's the way your relationship is set up, how could that be successful?
Yeah, I've never found it to be successful. It doesn't
Yeah.
work for me.
I wonder if
I've been with
people-
women that I really found attractive, but just didn't have anything in common outside of that. Like
Yeah.
physically attractive, and that's it.
Does it take you a little while to like recognize that?
Nope. I know pretty
Oh,
fast.
oh my God. Okay.
I knew pretty fast. Like you feel it. Either you feel a spark. Now, some of them were long term. Like we did date for a while.
Yeah.
And I try to, as much as possible, try to be more present and all that other
So
stuff.
you
right?
were you at any point in that time trying to build an emotional connection, or
I
you
was.
just
I was trying, but I
Okay.
just couldn't.
So it's not like you didn't feel it at first and you're like, I'm out. You try to like, okay, it's not really there yet. But sometimes it
Right.
takes longer with people.
Well,
sometimes
they're attractive, so you're going to try harder.
I'm just saying, like,
Well, they're attracted to me anyways. Anyway,
sometimes
but,
you meet somebody and you instantly click. Like there's something.
yeah,
And then sometimes you have to work.
And
that
I've
a
had that
little bit.
before too, where they might not be conventionally good looking,
Yeah.
but we just had a connection and it grows from there.
Yeah.
So then they become. So I've seen it the other way. I've never seen it the other way around. In other words, the emotional part, you get connected, and maybe they're not what you typically would go out with,
Right.
but now all of a sudden you find yourself like really, like it enhances that bit of it.
Yeah.
The fact that they're not conventionally good looking or what you would go for, but because you have so much in common, you just feel like you know them better. Anyways, the attraction builds. But the other way doesn't really work for me, where it's a physical thing and then there's just no connection
Yeah.
on the first or second date. I mean, we're getting along and
Right.
we're cordial and all, but just no connection. I can't make that build.
Right.
I can do the other one. I just can't. I can't.
It's funny that you brought that up because I actually have that on my notes. It's called demi-romantic. I didn't know the term for it, but it's basically that. It's when you don't have romantic feelings for a person until you build. Like it's like you may not be attracted to them and then you start to talk to them and you get really close and then all of a sudden they become attracted to you. I didn't know that there was a term for that.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah. Well, no, I knew it was a thing because, like, okay, for women, typically looks is not 100%. Like, we want to be connected to you emotionally, right? So it's like you can go for a guy that you're mildly attracted to,
Yeah.
but then let's say they're an amazing person. They're really funny. You guys click. He's emotionally available. He's going to start to look a lot better to that woman
Okay.
physically.
Sure.
That's basically it.
I think that part there though really comes from what stage in life you're in, and I know that's a future show that we're going to talk about. But if you're in a situation where at that moment you're just not looking,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You're just looking for a good time, so to speak, or
Right.
how I have seen it done on the dating apps, as they say they're looking for something casual. It's like, okay, great, and everybody knows what that means.
Do a lot of women put that on their website? I mean, on their
Some of them will put that, and then they'll add long term as well, which is weird. So I don't know.
based on what you look like,
Yeah.
I may be looking for casual or long-term.
Maybe long term, you know what I mean? But when they're in the casual state,
Yeah.
they're really focusing more on, I'm not looking to get into anything serious, so we really don't need to jive that. That's how I interpret it, right? When
Yeah.
I've been in my, let's say, stages of dating, and there's times when I'm just looking for something casual.
Yeah.
I would say for me, I know we're going off topic a little bit. Whenever I'm dating, I don't know what to expect. So it could be long term, it could be
Yeah.
casual. Like I'm open to both, right? I'm not saying like no, I'm this way or that way.
Yeah.
But some people are. Some people will say I'm just looking for something casual right now.
Yeah.
Maybe they're for me, maybe the woman she's high powered position, has a lot on her plate, has kids and stuff, but she's human too, right? So
Yeah.
she's trying to do what she's got to do. So I understand that. But if you're in that stage, what you're talking about
Yeah.
won't work unless, of course,
Unless they're so amazing.
Well, they're physical, right? And then
Yeah.
it turns out that they actually click.
Right.
Then that's when it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
You know
we
what I
can
mean?
make this long term.
Yeah.
But yeah, the third one is romantic, and that's obviously wanting to be in a romantic relationship with them. So, if you're looking for long term, I guess is what it says on the dating apps. That means you're looking for a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this, baby. Let's
be romantic.
I guess. That should be like your quote. Is there a way you could put like a quote? Let's be romantic in quotes.
In the what? In
your profile.
In my profile? I could try.
Let's see if you get any hits with that quote on there.
I'll try it. Let's be romantic together.
I like it.
Might be crazy enough to work.
The fourth one is sexual. This is the desire to engage in sexual activities. But here's the other thing with that. This can also be for like when you have a crush on somebody and you're like fantasizing about that person. So it's not actually a sexual relationship. It's you are having these like sexual thoughts about
Yeah, we're talking
someone
about
else.
attractiveness. Whether they're attracted to you is a different story.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother ballpark, right?
Do you think a lot of guys get fixated on that? I think we talked about that before. Like if they see a girl that maybe they think there's no chance in hell that I could get with her. Do you think they'll just stay in that space where all it is just a fantasy and they just fixate on that for
Yes.
too long?
Yes, it does.
That's sad.
Well, because it's such so unless the other person initiates it, and then that's when you'll find out pretty fast. But imagine that you're into somebody, right? Let's say sexually attracted to them, but you have that fear that if you take your shot, so to speak, you'll get rejected. You don't want that
Because you want the fantasy still.
Well, it's kind of, sort of. It does
Yeah, because
kind of
if you
ruin
get
it a little.
rejected, wouldn't that
But
like
it's rejection that you're really trying to avoid
Yeah.
more than anything, because now it's somebody that you really, really desire, and they're telling you no, thank you. So they won't do anything. But if they find out that person starts to drop hints, that's when things get interesting. Or let's just say they ask you out on a date, then you're just like, it's a whole. I've had that before, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, this
it's
is
like a subtle way of be like, oh, what's your Facebook account or something? Like they try to connect with you.
kind of,
like,
sort of, yeah.
like, oh,
I mean,
let's-
sometimes they're subtle, and sometimes they just might ask you out on a date.
yeah.
It's like, hey, you want to have dinner with me or something like
Women
that.
ask you that?
I mean, it's happened before. It doesn't happen a lot, but
Yeah.
it's happened before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So women invite me out to eat.
Aw.
Why is that bad?
No, it's just cute. I don't know. I'm just picturing like a woman walking up to you, be like, "Hi."
Well,
You want a
it's,
date?
no, I mean, that part. I mean, not that bold, but a lot of women. I date women my age, and they don't really want to wait around too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, hey, look, we're getting up there. You know what I mean? Let's interact with one another. Let's have
Yeah.
a date. See if it works. If it doesn't,
So those are the people you meet on the dating app where they're like, "Let's just meet. Forget this whole texting back and forth. Let's just meet to see if there's
Right.
anything there."
That's what I'm saying. So like,
Yeah.
yeah. So if it's casual, again, you might stick to the sexually attractive, but the demi part would come in the fact that, okay, now I'm looking for something long term. So
Yeah.
I know women tend to read the profiles a lot more, but they're going to look at that and say, okay, this is somebody that I usually do not date based on looks,
Yeah.
but based on their profile, he doesn't look like a mass murderer or anything like that.
Oh, sometimes you
A
can't
serial
tell.
killer, right? You can't. But let's just, he doesn't look that bad. Just like
Yeah.
he's got his life together. Let me give him a shot.
Yeah.
And by that time, again, you can because it's really more the emotional that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So let's start it out. I mean, again, if you're physically attracted, that's great. But if you're looking for something a little long, that's going to last a little longer, that might be where
Yeah.
you go.
The fifth one is aesthetic. And this is believing is something is beautiful and visually appealing, but there's no desire for a relationship. So this one made me think of you and I, because you and I are not attracted to the conventional good looking like
Yeah.
people. So it's like, but we can appreciate it's like, okay, this girl or this guy, like I can appreciate they are conventionally attractive, but
Right.
it's not something that you and I would go for.
Yeah.
Why is that funny?
Yeah. For me, I would say I like unique faces,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense, right? I think in all reality, the really, really good looking people, the again the symmetrical and all that
They look
other
like
stuff,
Ken dolls or something.
they're rare. They're
Yeah.
rare, right? It's hard to find somebody like trying to think like a Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Or Brad Pitt or a Tom Cruise or something. I'm naming dudes off, but like for the women, for instance, like a Sandra Bullock, who's extremely beautiful, Kate Blanchett. They just don't walk around every day.
Right.
It's a small group, so if you look at it, they're really the minority.
Yeah.
The majority of everybody else has different features to them.
But you and I have talked about this before when we've watched Love is Blind. Like there'll be guys on there and I would tell you, like, I don't find him attractive. And you're like, oh no, he's a conventionally attractive man. Like girls like that.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, I don't see anything attractive about that.
Yeah.
Just because you have blonde hair, blue eyes, and you're ripped doesn't mean that I'm going to be attracted to you. I get it.
Yeah, you don't like what the masses like. Yeah, so to your point earlier, yes,
But I mean, we
run
see
into
those
that.
people.
I do it too.
I'm
I
not
look
saying
at-
there's a lot of them. I'm just saying Love is Blind is just an example of that. Like, here's these conventionally attractive men and women. But personally, there's not a lot of that conventional stuff that I like.
Yeah, I will say this much. For me, we watch that, and every time I watch it, maybe this is just me as I'm getting older now. Whenever I see somebody on that show, female, the sweeter that she is, the more attractive I become towards her.
Yeah.
Because the personality, because like an ugly soul is hard. It's hard to get around that.
Then why the guys always go for the ugly soul women?
Because
though?
they just happen to be conventionally pretty.
Yeah.
And when they're conventionally pretty, it's like it's hard not to, you want to like them. And it's like what's weird about it is the more you're exposed to them, the less and less you like them, which to me kind of makes sense, right? Because I think to myself, I'm not a conventionally good-looking dude. I don't have a lot of remarkable traits. So like I'm gonna put that out there right now.
You're so hard on yourself.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. So I don't know where I was going with that. So, and obviously I do okay, but for somebody that's conventionally beautiful and then they're single, you think to yourself, well, how can that be? You must have your laundry list of suitors. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that that maybe they just found bad people. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is a possibility that maybe that person is just not a nice person too. Yeah. Like, I don't know why they're not single. It's a mystery to me. I just scratch my head. I'm just like, somebody should be dying to be with you, right? But again, when you get down to like an ugly soul, that's not attractive. I mean,
maybe they're just too picky.
Oh, or it could be that. It could be a variety of things, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I think there's good-looking people that know they're good-looking, and then there's good-looking people that still have a get-up of some sort and keep on thinking that they're not. Yeah. And there's good-looking people that don't know that they're good-looking to other people.
Yeah, I think we set our own expectations on what we wish that we look like, but I mean, at the end of the day, obviously there's people that find you attractive. So it's like, it's not true. You may look in the mirror and say like, I'm so unattractive. Why would anyone? But it's like, it's just your mind playing that game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can get in your mind really, really. Yeah. You can talk yourself out of, to your point in the question earlier, like would that person ever cross that boundary and like go after it, go for that shot for that person that they're sexually attractive? It's like most of the time they're not.
Yeah.
Because they have their own get up on it. Yeah. They'll think I'm going to get rejected because I'm not. I think they're so good looking. There's no way they're going to find me as attractive.
Oh, I've definitely said that in my lifetime. Sometimes it'd be like someone interested in me, and I'm like, why would you be interested in me? Like you're.
I had that before too, and it was weird. It was weird because again, it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does happen, where I was like really, really into them, it was like on the first date. And I just thought, nah, they're just way too good looking for me. Like, I'm going to have my date and have fun and, leave. But no, it turned into something else.
Nice.
Yeah, it was.
The last one is
But the personality didn't work out so
Yeah.
But that was the problem with, unfortunately, with sexual attraction. It's like you have that and then you're like, oh, but they're
yeah.
bad people.
The last one is intellectual, and this is liking or being attracted to someone based on their thoughts or their
I
intellect.
love a big brain.
I find this almost, honestly, this is like the most appealing to me. If I
Obviously,
really
yeah.
want to listen to what you have to say and like that's enjoyable for me,
Yeah,
there's nothing better than that.
that big old brain. That sexy brain. I've always gone for the nerdy girls.
It's not about being nerdy to me. It's just more of like, you don't have to be a nerd just to know things or to have a strong
Kind of do.
opinion.
It's
No,
kind of a nerd, right?
no, being a nerd, no. What's
I mean,
a nerd
aside
to
from
you?
being like a doctor or something like that, no.
Well,
of
what is
course,
a
if
nerd
she's
to you?
A nerd to me is just somebody that does know a lot of different things. They're back when I was growing up, nerds meant that they were educated. As
Okay.
weirdly as that might sound, right? Because those were the guys that studied. They had the pencil protectors. It made sense. It wasn't cool, but that was logical. That's a logical thing to have a pocket protector for your pens. I've had one and you've given me crap about it. And
I
I'm
must
like,
have blocked out that memory.
but yeah, but it was like, because if you have one,
Yeah.
again, it's nerdy. Because you're like, dude, that's a nerd, but it's a very logical and very smart thing to do. Because if it leaks, it's going to ruin your shirt. Why would you do that?
I'm thinking about, no offense, but when I think of nerd, I think of like people who are like into like, I don't want to say it, but like Dungeons and Dragons.
You're talking
and,
about a
like,
geek.
okay.
That's different.
Okay.
You're talking about a geek. I'm sorry.
Okay. So nerd is cool. Geek is not.
No, nerd is educated.
Okay.
It's smart, right? Very logical. And geeky is the ones that are into the fantasy and stuff like that. Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? They geek out. Let's just put it this way before I offend anybody. But they geek out about things. You know what I mean? And there's
Okay.
nothing wrong with that, right? That's
So
why you
can
say
you geek out
geeking
about something that's not geeky?
Yeah, like let's say you're going to a Taylor Swift concert and you're all geeky about it. Like you know everything about Taylor Swift. Like you're immersed. You know all her songs. You can
Okay,
you
so
can
that's
sing
a
along.
geek.
Yes, that's a
Okay.
geek. Yeah. Or and it could be like fantasy, or they might like
Okay.
doing whatever they get into.
Yeah.
But it's something that they're entrenched in a certain, let's say, subculture, if you will,
Okay.
of something. It could be Legos. Let's say she loves Legos and she puts like she doesn't necessarily need to be a brain scientist, right? But she loves them and she's like she geeks out. She goes to the conventions. She dresses up. You know what I mean? Like that's what
I just meant more of like a nerd. I don't know. When I say that, like intellect, it doesn't mean you have to go to school. It doesn't mean you have to have read a lot of books. It's just like, you know, things about based on your experiences or maybe based on things you did study or just observing people, and to have those kind of intellectual conversations with someone.
Yeah, nerds are not a bad thing. Just FYI, like that's what I'm saying. But I love women that are educated.
Why can't we just say educated? Why would we have to use the word nerd? Maybe that's throwing me off.
Because the nerdy part is again, it's also like they're very logical too. That's another kind of thing. They're not cool. I'll put it to you this way:
They're not cool?
Well, it's not cool
Because
exactly.
you called me logical from
Yes,
many times.
and I'll give
So
you an
am I a
example.
nerd?
I'll give you. You're not a nerd in general, but I will say like one of the nerdy things that you do is, and it's not a bad thing, mind you. It's a good thing.
Okay.
But I remember you got me coffee, and then like whenever I get coffee, I pour the coffee, and then I pour the creamer, and then I stir it. And you said, "Don't do that. Get the creamer, put it inside the coffee, or put it inside the cup first, and then pour the coffee over it, and it'll mix
stirs
it by itself, and you don't have to ruin a
spoon.
spoon." That's nerd. You're being a nerd. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing as a pocket protector. It's like, yes, it doesn't look cool, but I'm going to have it anyways. But it makes sense to have it. It's logical. And I still do it to this day. When I forget, I think about you. But like, you're just washing a spoon. That's all you're doing. So you're being a nerd about that.
Okay.
So yeah, but they just apply it to everything. So to be them, but they grew up to be very successful people, right?
Me excluded from that?
No. I mean, you're a successful person too. But that's what I'm saying. That's what attracts me to them is that they have a big knowledge base about things.
Yeah.
And they know stuff, and yeah.
So out of these 6, are you going with the intellectual one as your number one?
It's up at the top of the list for sure.
That or emotional is up there with me.
Yeah, because the emotional we have to click for sure. but the nice thing about being a guy is that a lot of women can kind of tap into the emotional side. So that's not a very big, for me, it's mostly,
So
and I
it's
don't,
easier for men, but not easy for women in that regard. Because it's harder for a guy to be emotionally available to me as
Right.
opposed as a woman being emotionally available to you.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh,
But that's
gotcha.
what I'm saying. But even the emotional part for me, it's the chemistry, and I don't know which one that falls under. Under the, it might be the demi thing, maybe.
No, that wasn't a that was just a side note, a
Oh,
term that
okay.
I learned
Oh,
when I was
okay.
researching that I didn't know.
Yeah. So typically for guys, just because again, the dating world, and for women too, right? We're looking mostly at the picture.
Yeah.
Like I read the profiles. I enjoy reading the profiles. It's always certain category of women. And some of the stuff gets said over and over and over.
Yeah.
And so
You're like,
sometimes
I've already watched this movie.
yeah. So you see a trend after a certain amount of time or whatever. But I like reading them, but really you don't have a lot to go off of. And if they don't add anything to their profile, because they do that a lot too,
Yeah.
then you don't know anything about them. So all you have is a picture. So then you swipe.
Oh, so some people don't put like, here's what I like. Huh.
They put minimal information. Not sure why they do that, but that's just what they do. I'm assuming guys do it too, but I don't look at dudes' profiles, so I have no idea.
But yeah.
But the attractiveness is really where it starts out, and then hopefully it'll turn into something else. I mean, quite honestly, for a guy, there has to be some form of physical attraction.
Yeah.
It has to. It has to for a woman too, by the way. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there has to be something, even if it's a small amount, it has to be
Like, you're
something.
cute.
Yes, just something where like
Yeah.
I can kind of see, being with you or whatever. There has to be in there because
Yeah.
if you're just, at least for a guy, if you look at a picture and you're like, no, there's no way on earth that I could do this. Like I can't be with this. And again, there's nothing wrong with them, but it's just I can't.
Yeah.
As much as I want to be attracted to them, I just can't. Like, and it's just not gonna work out.
Swipe.
I know.
There's something else that I learned in my research. There's something called the halo effect. And what this is a cognitive bias in which your overall impression of somebody is based on their physical appearance. So it made me think of, you touched on it just a second ago, about like serial killers or criminals in general. If you're really good looking, people, for some reason, we just tend to trust those people or think that they're good people just based on that. That's called the halo effect. I just thought that was interesting.
Does charisma fall into that category too?
No, this was just more of your overall, because I thought about too, like when you get a job, and this is sad, but it's true. If you're better looking and you have the same qualifications, or even if you're a little bit less than someone else, you may get hired just based on how you look.
But that's what I'm saying. But is it so we're that one right there is strictly under the physical part of it, not the character, because that's what I'm saying.
Right. It's just when you see somebody.
Okay.
So if I see this person and let's say he's really attractive, let's say that my mind is telling me, oh, you can go down this alley with this person. He's not going to attack you because look how good looking he is.
But it's just the physical part.
Exactly.
Of it. Okay,
Or if you see someone in a job interview that like you may look at them and be like, let's say they're a little bit heavier.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're lazy.
Yeah.
But in your mind, sometimes you may go to that like, oh, well, they're a little bit heavier. That means that they don't work as hard. That's not true. Just because you're good looking doesn't mean you work hard.
When you were talking about the serial killer, I don't know why my mind went to Jeffrey Dahmer because he did look very unassuming.
Yeah.
I mean, now we look at him and we know that's the face of horror, but go back, before he got caught. And if you were to put that picture of his face up, you wouldn't think much of him. You'd be like, yeah, he's.
Or like Ted Bundy. I mean, you said he's conventionally attractive. I disagree, but women thought he was conventionally attractive and they're like, oh, this guy can't be dangerous. And even when this isn't a murder podcast, but even when they found all the information, they're like, it can't be him. It can't be. Look how good he looks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It means nothing.
You know where I see this, and we're probably going down a dark path, but yeah. So you see that with when a teacher gets in trouble for sleeping with a student, right, a teenage student, and when it's a male that does it with the young lady, like whatever picture comes up, you immediately go to like they're disgusting.
Yeah.
But if it's a female teacher and she's young and pretty, you're like, you know what I mean, like. Maybe she got manipulated, right? It's just like, no, because she's the adult. So obviously, you know what I mean? But it is a different, when you look at them, sometimes you're just kind of like, no, that can't be, because you typically associate that sort of behavior with men. And, whatever they look like, and you just don't associate it. So it's
But
the halo effect, but just for
do
everybody.
you think that some of that though is because our mind immediately thinks that a man, regardless of what he looks like, a man can control a young girl's mind easily more so than the other way around? Do you think it's part of that too? Of like, oh, well, he's a man, he's manipulating
Whether
her.
Right. Well, I mean, they're all adults, so of course they're going to manipulate the kids. So that's
Right.
across the board.
Yeah.
It's what you're talking about, because we're looking at solely looks. Like
Mm-hmm.
you said, you would be more inclined to go down a dark alley with somebody that is conventionally good looking. We think of conventionally good looking women like, no, they couldn't have done that, because
I
you think to
see.
yourself they can get any guy that they want.
Yeah.
So what happened there? That's where your mind goes to.
Yeah.
But it's a bias for
Yeah.
sure, because it's like, no, she's an adult, she's a predator. The
So if
same
the
as that mugshot from that guy with the mustache. She's a predator just like him.
yeah.
There is no difference between
What
the
do you think
two.
people would feel if it came out and it was a woman teacher, but she was unattractive? Do you think that they would
Probably.
feel like, oh, she's evil?
But that's what you're talking about. It's the halo effect.
Yeah.
It's certain people that you what anybody. I think that the norms are changing,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've had this discussion about when I was a kid, you looked at television, and television didn't have faces like mine. They didn't have people of color in general.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was Caucasian.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. So that's why when you and I speak and I'm saying, yeah, blue eyes and, blonde hair and 6 foot tall, that's what I was raised watching. So that's what I thought was conventionally. You didn't see faces like me. Now it's different because there's a lot more diversity on television, and you see it, and it's like people that you didn't think, now they're.
Why do you think that was? Because if you were attracted to a certain trait, that hasn't changed over time. We were still attracted to other people back then too. Why do you think it was like that?
Because again, they wanted to make it palatable for the masses. Somebody decided this is what conventional beauty looks like, and once they decided that was it. All bets were off. But I think this is the weird part about it. It's also the fact that, again, like I was saying, conventionally good looking people are not everywhere. I mean, they are, but
Yeah.
it's a small. If you get 100 dudes, right? I would say that you especially are probably going to be only attracted to a small minority of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe half of them you think are okay, the other half, no, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, or like 25% of them, no, thank you. And then it dwindles down, and maybe like there's 5% of dudes where like, yes, this is somebody that I think is in my opinion is conventionally good looking. It doesn't really matter, but if you do that to a whole bunch of people,
Yeah.
it still narrows it down to that small bit of people. And those are the ones that they're going to select to be on the commercials, to be on TV shows, and this, that, and the other. What we know now, that's what I'm saying, what I like about the diversity in television now, is now you're seeing more people that didn't look like that. Like I know all these references that I'm pointing out, I know you're not going to get it, but the new Spider-Man, Spider-Man has a friend. And, he's Asian. He has somewhat of a bowl cut. He's a little overweight. And my point being is that he's just not somebody that you would associate with a blockbuster. You know what I mean? Like there was always another, good looking kid. I mean, and he's killing it. He's crushing it, because it turns out the executives were wrong. It's like he's doing well.
Yeah.
He's doing very well for himself, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But again, you're seeing more diversity. And yeah, that's a good thing. It's highlighting the unique features that the different, ethnicities and races have.
Yeah.
It's not just Caucasian, although Caucasians are good looking too, but obviously it runs a spectrum, right? In every race, there's people that are just extraordinarily good looking.
I wonder what our thoughts would be if back when like TV started, if they just had everybody on there. I wonder how that would have changed the way we look at conventional beauty.
I think sometimes it influences. It most certainly did it for me. So I'm hopeful that as they keep on promoting diversity, as we evolve as a society, we'll start thinking that, like, don't discard these guys.
Yeah.
What's funny when you say that, because I don't know if you can tell this, but I'm Mexican.
You are?
Yeah. I'm Latino, right? Hispanic, whatever, right? And what's interesting is that whenever the females that I've dated, the women that I've dated, they don't go for white guys. They don't go for Caucasian dudes.
They say that.
Yeah, and then sometimes they'll even show me on their like if they have their dating profiles and stuff like, look at this dude, and it's like they're guys that I tell them like, yeah, that's a good looking dude, and they're like, no, they're not, but they're attracted to people like me.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So I can't. It's weird to me. That's what it throws me off.
We were just tired of the Ken doll look. We're like, we're over it.
I guess. Like, yeah, I'm all over the place with my facial features. Maybe they want something different. That's what I'm saying. It's that cute ugly, I guess. I don't know.
No, don't say that.
That's the only thing I can equate it to because, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, there is some obvious differences between men and women when it comes to things that we're attracted to. So I kind of gathered a little bit of what each is attracted to. So women say some of their top things they look for is age, education, intelligence, income, trust, and emotional. So like those are some of the top things that why is that?
Can we go down that list again? Age?
Age. Yeah. I'm not going to try to date a 21-year-old.
Why not? I'm a 21-year-olds.
They're babies.
I mean, don't get me wrong, yes, but I'm just saying, okay.
I'm not looking for a 21-year-old dude.
I would say that, I guess, and maybe I'm wrong in this assessment, I don't know, but for women, they might want an older guy. I don't know if they want an older guy or if they want.
Well, it doesn't say like looking for younger, older. It's just like, here's a criteria. Just whatever it is, maybe not age appropriate. I don't know.
Well,
like
that's
maybe
what I'm saying, because if age is a thing, right? So for me, that is one of the first things that I look for. Are they age appropriate? Because you're right. I'm not going to date a 20-year-old.
Right. It's just a different thing. It's just something like when they asked women, like, what are some of the things that are important to you or a criteria, so to speak?
Age. Okay.
It's like, okay, me personally, I'm not looking for a 21-year-old or a 89-year-old. That's just not like.
I mean, you got to have your standards. I'm sure. Like, for sure. I get it. So what was the other ones again?
Emotional. Intelligence.
That was the last one, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, educational. Sorry. Educational, intelligent. We don't have to go through that. I'm just saying, like, here's some things
just
like
curious.
we're looking for.
Curious. Like this was men or women or both?
This was women. Okay. This is what women say.
Okay.
Educational.
I need to know this information.
Educational, intelligence,
gotta be educated.
Income, trust, and emotional.
They got to be educated and smart. They got to have feelings.
You're building your case here.
And you got to have feelings. You got to make a little paper. Sorry. No, that makes sense. I mean, again, I don't know. It depends on what stage in your life you are. I mean, yeah. Because I'm assuming it's not in any particular order.
No, it's just a general thing. Like, but I don't know. I'm not saying every woman is like this, but when I was 21, I was still looking for someone who was emotionally available. That doesn't change in my lifetime of what I'm looking for.
What does that mean exactly, though? Like, what does that exactly mean?
Maybe it's minus a lot of the machismo or something. You know what I mean? Like, I can sit down and have a conversation with you and you're emotionally available to me. You're telling me your feelings. We're having these types of discussions. You're opening up to me emotionally.
So is it me opening up, or let me rephrase that. Is it more the man opening up to you or you being able to open up to them, or both?
It depends on whatever. I don't like to share too much at the beginning of the relationship, so it just depends on the woman.
Yeah, because I don't like to share a lot either. Not because, well, let me rephrase it. It's not that I don't like to share. I just don't have a lot to share.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had my tragedies just like everybody else, but I've dealt with them.
It would be you guys sitting on the couch and she's talking about her feelings with her family or whatever, and you're being there for her. You're being supportive. You're like, oh, I know. I can understand how that feels. You know, you're just being empathetic, whatever, with her. It's just you're being emotionally available. I'm not saying you have to sit down and throw out like, here's all my life tragedy.
Yeah, I think, but the reason why I bring that up is because I've been called out on that, right? Where, you know, I'm more than happy to sit down and listen and have a good conversation about whatever it is that you want to talk about. But then they'll ask me how I'm feeling, and it's like sometimes.
But that's what women want.
No, I get that. I get that. But that's what I'm saying. But as a guy, I might not be feeling any which way or anything. Like I'm. Let's just put it this way: I'm at peace. So there's really nothing for me. Whatever.
Then maybe at that time you express why you're at peace, why you're happy in the whatever the conversation. Let's say you're talking about your relationship.
Yeah.
If you say like, I don't really have anything to say because I'm at peace, maybe you can go into be like, here's all the things that I love about being with you. This is what makes me feel good. These are the things that I enjoy.
The words of affirmation, are you saying?
Yes. Yes.
These pesky words of affirmation.
Yeah.
But that's a word for, that's That's so hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes when I'm just like, I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm just good. Like there's nothing, I'm not emotional about anything. Like I'm here if you want to talk, but because you don't share really something that you don't even know what to share exactly,
Yeah.
they label you as like, well, you're emotionally disconnected or something. It's like I'm not. I'm good right where I'm at. Like you know what I mean? And that's why I was asking like, what does emotionally available mean to to anybody, right? Because for me, it's the opposite, right? It's the same thing, but there's a thing that guys do sometimes, and I guess women do too, where clearly they're dealing with something. Now, let's say I have a girlfriend, and I can clearly see that something's going on, right? She's upset about something, but maybe she doesn't want to ruin the evening, whatever. So I ask her, hey, is everything okay? Yes, I'm fine. Okay. So at that moment, she's not being emotional available. But again, let's say we have to be at a party in 5 minutes, right? We're already running late. You know what I'm saying? Like it just
I think
means
you're being
different.
too specific. It's
Well,
just talking
because
about a very
sometimes,
general
yeah,
in the relationship, not every scenario, not
yeah,
every single moment. It's just, it
yeah,
could be anything. If you're having a problem with your dad and you guys are clearly fighting of some sort, and you and I have been in a relationship, and I say, babe, how are you feeling about your father? And let's say you open up to me like, this is why I'm frustrated with my dad and blah, blah, blah. You're
mm,
giving me that emotion. I'm there. I can be there for you because you are opening up emotionally to me. It doesn't have to be about our
yeah.
relationship. It doesn't have to be every single time we meet up.
But
It's just
I
in
would just say,
general.
and that's fine, right? But that's what I'm saying. As a guy, you learn not to force it out of a woman either. Even if you don't in that scenario, you don't have any place to go.
Yeah.
But if she doesn't want to talk about it, I can't continue egging her on. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I've had that done to me. Like, yes, I might be dealing with something. I might say, hey, I'm dealing with something, but I don't want to share right now. And like, I need to process it. I really don't want to talk about it. Then I get accused of being emotionally unavailable. And I think that's an unfair because I can't, again, if you're going through something and I'm like, hey, I want to talk about it. And you're like, I don't want to talk about it right now. It's like, I really think you should talk about it because I think it's really, and you're like, but I really don't want to do. I said, I'm right here. Why don't we just air it out right now? After a while, we're going to get into a fight. And anybody in their right mind would say, Jose, just back off. But let's say I do back off. I'm not going to say, well, she's just emotionally unavailable all the time. It's like, no, you're going through something, you're processing. And that's why it's very difficult. You don't always want to share things with people. If you're the type of person that you need to kind of talk it out a little bit or think it out or whatever your process is. If the process includes you being by yourself and working it out on your own in your own thoughts, then you should respect that person. But that doesn't mean they're emotionally unavailable. That just means that that's part of their process. I don't know. Anyways.
Uh,
Maybe I'm going on
and
too
then,
far on that.
yeah. And then for men, the only thing that they were looking for was attractiveness and their physical build. That's all it said.
Yeah, was this done in the 80s or what?
No, I don't think it's changed since then.
It really has. It really has. But I think there is a difference the way people, I'm not even going to say male and females, I think there are people that deal with things differently.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that they're emotionally unavailable. It just means that they work through it different. I don't know why we've put it into a cookie cutter that says that we have to talk about it. I just don't understand. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing. I'm just saying it's almost like you're almost forced to talk about it. And if you don't do it that way, because you can express it other ways. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Maybe I'm not making sense. I just think that that's not. Because there's more to men. The criteria for men is more than that. It's not just the physical build.
This is just a fun fact. I looked up the most attractive state based on some criteria because I thought it was just kind of fun to see. So they're basing this off of looks, income, obesity, physical activity, and STDs. So every state is ranked. I'm going to tell you number 1 is New Jersey, which I was kind of surprised. I thought it would be like California. You know what I mean? Because they're really active and then you have lots of money.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why it's New Jersey. I would have thought the same thing too. That's the top one?
Yeah, that's the number 1 based on that criteria. Where do you think Texas land?
I don't know. We have a lot of I don't know. 14th?
We were 29.
Oh,
Oh, poor Texas.
poor Texas.
And then the last one, this is 50th. Oh, it's so sad. It's Mississippi. I'm sorry, Mississippi. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Oh, poor Mississippi. I don't know. Also, too, how attractiveness has changed over time. So I was thinking about, and we've all researched this kind of stuff back in like 1600s and stuff. They said that like the bigger you were meant you had more money, right? Because you weren't like doing any kind of labor, right? So it was bigger and pale. So you didn't have to be outside. And so when they see a bigger pale guy, they're like, oh, he must be wealthy or whatever. And that's what they thought was attractive, because I guess back then you couldn't say you were attracted to someone who worked outside. I don't know. I guess that was frowned upon. Or maybe it's
I'd
just
be
a
killing it back in
social,
the day then, I guess. I just,
like
we
a
don't live in
social
back in the
class
day.
of people. I think, what I mean, back then, like if you were super rich, you couldn't be with someone who was really poor. Like that wasn't
I get it, but
allowed.
I'd want to go, because then my logical brain's been turned on and it's hard for me to turn it off, because it was attractive not because of those features. It was attractive because what it said.
Right.
But that's different. That's
Right.
not a physical attraction, although it just happened to be that way because of the other things,
Yeah.
which doesn't make any sense because it's different.
Yeah. Well, it's kind
So
of
they didn't
weird.
find that attractive per se. It just said something about them, that they were wealthy, they had money, they had security. You would have a good life if you were hooking up with the overweight, pale dude.
When I looked at from like a
But they didn't like
timeline
it, I
from
don't
like the 1600s all the way till now, it's interesting because it fluctuated. Like heavier the main category was weight. So it's like back then, if you were really big, that was considered beautiful, and it's fluctuated over the hundreds of years, gone up, down, up, down, up, down. We're now back in the upswing of a larger woman is considered more attractive. But even, I mean, think about like the 90s. Like you remember what that was like. It was like if you weren't a
I
stick,
remember the 90s.
then you weren't attractive to people. That's the way it was.
Again, that was a brainwashing thing.
No, 100%. I agree with you. But that's what we thought. And now we're back up to, and it's going to go down again. Because like I said, all throughout history, it's gone up, down, up, down, up, down. Yeah. So there is going to be a time again in the future where you're going to be ridiculed, I think, for not being a certain size, which isn't cool. But
yeah. I mean, again, I think it's more, you look at, I go to the museums a lot, and you look at the carvings and the things when they portray women, they're usually heavier set.
Yeah.
So that was
for that time period.
But again, I don't know if they were attractive for survival reasons. Maybe they just thought that they were, being, heavier would translated into healthier. I don't know.
Or maybe back to that fertility thing. You know what I mean? It's like you see a little bit larger. Because now that you said that, I do think of like paintings and stuff. It's always like a full-figured woman.
Yeah. You very rarely see somebody that's stick thin.
Yeah.
In those.
But it could be based on the time period too, because like I said, if it's fluctuated like that, if it's a time period where being really thin was more attractive, I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, man. I like a little meat on the bones. There's nothing wrong with
Me
that
too.
as far as I'm concerned. Honestly, like, and don't get me wrong, I've been with very thin women too. And I enjoyed that quite as much, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I don't know. I've been with all kinds. And obviously I was attracted to all of them.
Yeah.
And they weren't all the same size, height, or, hair color or skin tone, whatever.
I think some people are still maybe too fixated on like the weight part, because like you said, I mean, if you're looking at like not only their personality, but their facial features, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I've heard men, I'm not saying women do this. I mean, they do, but I've heard men say like, oh, if she's not like this size, I won't even bother.
Yeah,
and so
they
it's
both
like,
do it, but yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like you have this fixation on weight when that really means nothing. That may be a preference, but like to exclude everyone else that doesn't fall under this very strict category seems strange.
Yeah. I mean, without getting too into the weeds, so to speak, sometimes it can be logistically difficult for different body types.
I understand. I'm just saying, like,
put it that way.
Maybe more of like I'm not saying like if you're size, like let's say you look for a woman, you're like, okay, I look for a woman who's a size 2 to a size 10. That's a large scale, right? But
Mhm.
I'm saying if you're like, I only want a woman who's size 2 and nothing else, don't even bother, then what you just said, which I
Yeah.
get what you're saying logistically, but like if you're size 4, what does that mean?
I can tell you right now, like for me, if you were to line up, all my girlfriends and people that I've dated, you really wouldn't see a pattern. There's
It's
not
a
a
weird
type.
mugshot.
I mean, it'd be a weird just lineup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they run the
What a
spectrum.
horrible thought. I'm just
I
thinking,
mean, I'm just
I'm
saying,
just picturing like
picturing all
all,
of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a terrible.
I mean,
Oh,
obviously, we want to do it separately. We don't want to bring them in all at one time. But if I were to do that and just picture in my mind and put them in a row,
yeah.
it'd be a really diverse group.
Yeah. But some people, maybe not so much. Maybe
Yeah.
some people, all of their
Right.
exes look the same.
Right. Right. And I would say to those people sometimes, and if they found somebody that fits that mold, then
Yeah.
good for you. But if they haven't, then you might want to switch up your criteria because
Yeah.
maybe I will say this much, there is a difference um, sometimes in what you think you want versus what you really end up with or what you find out later on,
Yeah.
like, hey, I really did like this. It could grow again. Sometimes you start to get to know them and it grows.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, like that person, the most beautiful person that you've ever seen, it's like,
Exactly.
I want to be with them. Like it doesn't matter. Like that's my
That
person.
happens a lot with women. Like, so we looking for these other things like they listed, it's like if you have all these things and again, you make us feel good, you make us laugh, you make us feel safe, that's going to elevate your overall like physical attraction for us.
I mean, my whole thing with the whole physical thing, and this is the part that always gets to me, is that it's something that we, as all of us, had nothing to do with. It's completely random. It's completely luck. I mean, what your physical body is,
Yeah.
you have no control over, none whatsoever, like none. And so it's just funny that That's why I think it's more genetic than anything, because logically it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If we were living in a time where let's say, we were always at war and it was hand to hand or swords or whatever. Yeah, I can see you want to get with a more muscular type or even a smarter, right? Because being a warrior, you don't need to necessarily be big, but you do need to know how to fight.
Right.
Brains helps. But in this day and age, it really doesn't matter. And even with the fertility thing, modern science has really come a long way. So you can't say that, somebody with a little more weight is going to be more fertile than we
Right.
know that that's false, right?
Right.
It has nothing to do with that, right?
Right.
But I don't know. That's why I think it's genetic, because once you get to know a person, I think if you're attracted to them physically, and if it's a genetic thing, but because we've evolved and we need emotions and personality and chemistry, let's say, I think that's where we run into that. I think that's where we bump up, unfortunately, and it's not quite working out.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like we talked about earlier, like your preferences can change over your lifetime. So whatever you're looking for, and I'm just talking strictly like being attractive or attractive traits when you're 20. I mean, it could be the same when you're 60. It could be, but I think it evolves over time, or it could go backwards. Let's say that you were young, you married young and you were basing it more on looks, let's say, because you're young, and then you get divorced and then, you're like, okay, that didn't work out. Now I'm going to look for someone who's like, treats me really well. Right. And you go through that whole phase. It can go back later in life to like, you know what? I just want a hot young guy. Like,
It could be that. I mean, that's why you see sometimes, it doesn't happen a lot, obviously, but a woman gets married, or let's say she's young and she's physically, sexually attracted to this guy. They end up getting pregnant. Let's say they get married or don't get married. It doesn't matter, but it doesn't work out for one reason or the other. Let's say they have 2 or 3 kids, like whatever. And then later on, her criteria changes because it's like, I'm usually with the attracted dude, but now she's looking for something more substantial. They get to know the personality. She's going to end up with somebody that she clicks with and has chemistry with. Maybe not somebody that she would ordinarily go for, but it got trumped. But the weird logical thing about that is she's already had the babies. So genetic it played its part.
yeah.
Genetic said, this person is the physical traits is what we're looking for. So you have babies with him, but you end up with this other guy. And it's bad for the other guy sometimes because he ends up being a stepfather. And if he's a good guy, like he doesn't mind, but at the same time, he won't have children of his own. So he's raising,
Would
somebody
you say
else's
that's the
kids.
case for a lot of people who have been divorced again and back out there?
Sometimes, yeah. Because the older people, as you get older and you get smarter, you realize that physical or physical traits are in the long term really doesn't matter that
Yeah.
much. I mean, honestly, it just doesn't.
You think it's hard for us to understand that though in our young person mind?
No, you can't. That's what I'm saying. Genetically, you're going to be attracted to what you're attracted to. It's hard to get away from it. Physically attracted
Yeah.
to something, but emotionally, you're not going to hit there. And I don't think we've evolved as a people yet to. I don't think we do the love is blind all the time, but we realize now it's not blind. It's not.
It's not.
But this is why it plays on them so much. I see it on every season and every interaction. It's weighing on them because again, they made the decision based on the emotional part, which they really, really made an emotional connection. But now it's bumping up against whether or not they're attracted to them or not.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always match up. And if the unattraction is too much, it can't be overcome.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem. But that's to me, and I could be wrong, I'm not a scientist, it's genetics versus, it's nature and the nurture being the emotional part.
Right.
They bump up against each other.
Yeah.
A lot of times for procreation, the nature is going to win
Yeah.
because you're attracted to what you're attracted. And if they're attracted back to you, you hear it all the time. I'm not saying that that's the only reason, but things get out of hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have one too many drink or just one drink, and that's enough that you can't control yourself anymore.
Yeah.
These two people end up, getting together.
You know what else I thought was interesting? And this makes perfect sense, but I didn't really think about it. But they were talking about on the dating apps, when you're like swiping through, or let's say you're looking at women's profiles, that you're using the face that you just saw for the next person. And that dictates to you how attractive the second person is, because you're always referring it back to the face you just saw.
When you're swiping or dating?
No, when you're on the apps.
Oh,
Like if
okay.
you're going through women's profiles or you're swiping or whatever, like say, here's a picture of Jessica and here's a picture of April. You see Jessica, you're like, oh, she's attractive. She's like an 8. And then you see April and like, oh, no, wait, she's a 9. But you're basing it on how much prettier April is than Jessica.
I catch myself doing it, but not exactly that.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is let's say there's a lady on there, she's blonde, blue eyes, and I swipe, right? And it's like, okay, great. And then another one comes up, and this one, she's Hispanic, so she has dark hair, dark eyes. I have to take a second, and I have to look at all because I just got through looking at the other one, so,
Right.
but I don't want that bias because it's like, okay, I can't compare her to her because
Right.
they're two totally different, but they're attractive in their own right. So I usually will scroll through the picture
Yeah.
and just look at it a little bit more and look at it a little bit more, let it ruminate. And then, if I think, I think this is something that I
Yeah.
might be able to do, then I swipe one way or the other. Or if I think, no, it has nothing
Yeah.
to do with the last one, but I've seen this one long enough.
Yeah.
And now this one is what's ingrained.
Right.
But I very rarely, that's what I'm telling you, all my women look very different.
But I can see how our minds would associate that. It's the same thing I hear from guys all the time. And maybe you can explain further, but when you see a group of women standing together, and let's say that there's 5 women, 4 of them are hot, one's not, you in your minds just see 5 beautiful women. They say that like you're more attractive if you're standing next to another attractive person. I don't really understand that.
Sort of. Yeah. So you're right. It does happen. I
Yeah.
can tell you when it happens to me, if I look at those, because again, I'm from a land of the misfit toys. So when I see a group of women, and let's say, like you said, maybe like 3 of them I find like super duper, like, yeah, I would love to, I'm sexually attracted, and one maybe not so much or not at all. At that point, I take a pause
Yeah.
and I just look at how the interaction. And then based on the interactions with each other and how they're carrying and conducting themselves, it can change. Because like I was saying, those 3 could be extremely beautiful, but they can also have ugly souls.
But just on first glance, why do you think that is?
But that's why you got to stop. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like when you see a group of, I mean, I guess for women too, but if you see a group of guys and the majority of them are attractive, you're just going to assume they're all attractive. And maybe the guy that you zone in on, right, you think he's more attractive because he's standing next to an extremely attractive man.
Yeah, it's all subjective, yes. Because I've had the opposite, where I'm looking at a group of women and there's only one that I'm super attracted to, the rest not so much. And there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
But there's just one. There's something about her. I don't know why, but I look at her and I'm like, I just think
But
she's the
is
cutest
it
one.
because in that instance that you're comparing her face to the faces that are surrounding her, though? Because it could skew it and you just don't know.
I don't
It's
know.
all subconscious.
I don't know. I know for me, like I said, I can't describe to you what a perfect woman physically would look like for me because they've all been through there.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is that when I do see a woman, I know instantly whether or not I'm attracted to them. I don't know if other people being around them plays a part or not. I really don't. Because I can see them by themselves. I can see like one woman walk by and the other one walk by and the other one. And then there's just going to be one that I'm just like, oh, she's a head turner for me. For me anyways.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know why. I've already walked past 3. And they say they were conventionally good looking. But that one, it's like, no, ooh, there's something about that one. I don't know what it is. The eyes, the lips, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'll just end on a survey. And so we kind of talked about what the men and women, what they say they're looking for. But based on a survey, this is the number one, like this is the thing that they're looking for. I know this isn't directed towards you. This is what this survey is for most men. So most men say the number one attractive thing about a woman is when she embraces her style. So this falls under if she dresses well, what kind of clothes she's wearing, how her hair and makeup are. So it's basically how she is presenting herself with her own personal style. They say that's the number one thing, which would make sense because if you're looking for someone that cares about themselves too and values themselves, I'm not saying always, but if you have someone who's very put together, it's probably more likely that they value themselves.
Yeah.
And you say all the time, like confidence in a woman is a very attractive trait. You don't want to be with a girl who's like, I'm so ugly. I'm so that you don't want that. Guys don't like that.
I think so long as that style is that you're attracted to that style, then I think yes.
Well, it's just you're being true to yourself.
Yes, and no, that's what I'm saying. You have to be attracted to it. So like, let's just say for the sake of argument, and women run this too, right? Let's say you have a kind of guy, and for you, let's say you like him in a suit, or maybe not always in a suit, but dressed nicely, sharp, takes care of like a city person, right? Versus a cowboy. But if you're into cowboys, like they can both have their same style and they can totally be into it. Doesn't mean that you're going to be attracted to them.
Yeah.
Because I've seen cowgirls before too. And I'm not saying I am or aren't, but I'm just saying there's times when they have the hunting pictures and they're hunters. And I'm sure they live that lifestyle, wear the camo and stuff and wear it with pride. But
Yeah.
It's not me.
It's just more of like, again,
But yeah, I hear
guys
what
are
you're
saying how
saying,
you
though.
present yourself. It could be whatever style that is. And
Absolutely.
for women, our number one thing is compassion. Falls under that is just being kind, having empathy, support, and mindfulness. So it's basically what we all know as the general sense is that guys are going to look for more of a physical thing and women typically are going to look for more of an emotional thing.
But let me ask you this. On the second one for women, how would being on a dating site or even maybe in person might be different, but on a dating site, how is one supposed to assess that?
You're going to have to get to know them. I mean,
which brings us back to the physical attraction. That's the part of it, though.
Okay, I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah.
I just need a tiny bit. I don't have to look at a guy and be like, oh my God, he's the most gorgeous thing on earth. There's like, if I look at you and I'm kind of attracted to you, then I'll look at your profile and it's like, okay, let me see the things he's interested in. Let's say we share some of those. You're like, okay, you message that person. Let's say you talk on the phone and then you click and then everything's like, yeah. And then you meet up and it's even more. And let's say he's not conventionally attractive or he's like, he's okay. Like he's kind of cute.
I think that I would just say that that's the downfall. I think if I don't know, I don't want to go on a tangent too much, but I think the dating apps really need to update how they do things, because I think if you get them on the emotional side and let's say you meet that criteria, then you should see the picture. if what you're saying is true, is that they're looking for those other things and maybe they do videos or they ask questions of the guy and see how they answer them or whatever, then you can see how that, and you might be able to assess. But again, I don't know. Because if you do that and then you see them, you might have a chance. But let's just say that you don't do. That's why the Love Is Blind is such a amazing thing for me, because yes, on an emotional level, they're connecting. But then they get out in the world or they see each other and it's like, oh,
I don't know. If
I
I was
don't
looking
like
at
you
a
too
dating app,
much.
I would just be like, what's some things that I may like, whether it's their interests or whatever. And then I would know in that first phone call. I'm just like you, like I have to click with you. If I don't click with you, I can't do anything. It can't go any further than that. It's
Yeah.
just not.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's flawed for females
Yeah.
because there's no way you can tell that from
Right.
a profile.
They talk about dating apps are flawed all the time. Like this
Yeah.
is the main thing. You're basing it
If
just
that
off
truly,
that.
yeah, if it's truly that's the number one thing, or the survey, the majority of women want that, then they're in trouble because that's not how that's not how dating apps are set up. But
yeah, thank you to the listener for the suggestion, and that was attraction. And see y'all next week.
all right, until next time.
Bye.
Bye.